Krishna. I think we're just about online for Facebook. There we are. Goranga. All right. Back to Zoom. Okay, it's good to see everybody again, or whoever makes it tonight. So we are going to have our nightly study of the Bhagavad Gita. And we welcome everybody, and I'm very enlivened. I feel, and I look forward to this time every day so we can read Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and come in contact with His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Earlier today, we did a very interesting interview with Gora Mani. And if you want to look at the interview, it's available on the Facebook page, my Facebook page, B.K. Goswami Das. And it's also available on my YouTube channel, Veer Krishna Goswami. So both those places is an interview tomorrow. And I'll remind you all later. Tomorrow we're going to have an interview with a doctor in Germany about the coronavirus, how to avoid, what to do, how to build up your immune system so you won't suffer that much. It's going to be quite an interesting discussion with some questions and answers, and that'll just be on Facebook, my Facebook page, and on, let's see, what else is going to be on YouTube, and also it's going to be on Zoom. So in Zoom, you're going to get an opportunity to ask questions. After I do the interview with him, you can ask him various questions. So that should be interesting for everybody. So now we're going to chant Jai Radha Madhava, and we'll get on to the Bhagavad Gita. Here we go. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Malaba Giri Bharadhari Gopi Jana Malaba Giri Bharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Hu Radho Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radho Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Malaba Giri Bharadhari Gopi Jana Malaba Giri Bharadhari Yashodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravitakacharya, also Teta Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Savaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadha Shri Vasudhi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopikapada Sayam Kunradakunda, Giri Govardhan Kijai, Vrindavanam Kijai, Maturam Kijai, Jagadasami Kijai, Munamai Kijai, Shimati Talasi Devi Kijai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrindi Kijai, Gaur Premananda Haribo. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, so Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful and humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So we're going to continue reading from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and we're up to text 13. So we're going to start with text 13, and here we go. Bhagavad Gita. There we go. And text 13 is an extremely famous verse. In fact, I think it was the first verse that I ever learned in the Bhagavad Gita. And it's a verse that we use all the time in explaining the eternality of the soul to people. So please learn this verse. And it goes as follows. Dehinosmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantara praptir diristatra namuyati. And dehi naha, of the embodied as min in this, yata as dehi, the body, or in the body. Komaram, boyhood, yovanam, youth, jara, old age, tata, similarly, deha, antara, a transference of the body, praptihi, achievement, dira, the sober, tatra, thereupon, na, never, muyati is diluted. So, translation, as the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So, Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport, since every living entity is an individual soul, each changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body, and since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering, according to one's work in this life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul of nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavad theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. In other words, they were all just one soul. It's not true. Such cutting to different individual souls would make the Supreme cleavable or changeable against the principle of the Supreme Souls being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the Supreme exist eternally, sanatana, and are called kshara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the Supersoul, who is present in each and every individual body and is known as the Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities, and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then their relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy Maya, let me just move this one thing. Okay, move it out of the way. There is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya. Okay, several things. First of all, the description here of us, that we are undergoing the process of transmigration from one body to another, and we remain the same. Although even in this life, Prabhupada would often give this example to make the point that even in this life we're changing bodies. Prabhupada one time was, let's see, he was by the water and he was thinking or saying that when he was young he would jump in the water and have a good time and everything like that, and now because of his body being much older he couldn't do that anymore. So this change of bodies occurs throughout one's life, and of course there's a radical change of bodies at the time of death. There's an interesting story in the Bhagavatam about someone who is able to change his body even in this lifetime to get a younger body. And most of us can't do that, although we would like to do that, to get a younger body of the same body. We will get a younger body, but that's next life. But somehow or other, we are looking for the fountain of youth. There was once a Portuguese sailor. His name was Ponce de Leon. And he had heard that in Florida, that's one of the states in the United States, for those of you who don't come from the United States, there was this fountain or spring that if one took a bath in, they could actually become young again in the same body. So he looked all over for it, but he didn't find it. In fact, probably found a bunch of old people in Florida. So there is a story in the Bhagavatam about someone who did enter the fountain of youth. Very interesting story. This involves a king named Saryati and his daughter Sukanya. So once upon a time, Saryati was going out and doing what a king does, like supervising his kingdom, and his daughter was with him. And they entered the ashram of Chaivana Muni. Let me turn off my phone so we don't hear the beep, beep, beep. So we entered the ashram of Chaivana Muni, and they couldn't see Chaivana Muni. So this little girl, Sukanya, was basically looking around the ashram, and she saw two little holes in the ground that were glowing, and she poked one of them. And of course that happened to be the sage who was meditating under the earth, because the sages had these mystic powers. They could meditate and put themselves under the earth, make themselves real small, make themselves real big, reach out to a different place. That's called Prapti City. That's one of the yoga cities or powers. So he was under the earth. And actually, when he was under the earth, in these little tiny, what's called antholes, he was looking at this young girl, which is actually kind of funny. So basically, the king and all of his soldiers, basically they all got constipation at that point, and they really got sick. And the king understood someone has committed an offense against this great sage, and he found out that his daughter had committed this offense against Chaivana Muni. So he went to Chaivana Muni and begged for forgiveness, and Chaivana Muni kept looking at the king's daughter. And the king understood, all right, the only way out of this dilemma is arrange a marriage between my daughter and this sage. But the thing is, this sage was really, really old. Really old. And also, one thing that goes along with old age is you get a bad temper too. So he's real old, bad temper. All right, so this lady, she got married to him, and she somehow or other tolerated the whole thing. He was very pleased with her, and he said, I can give you something that will give you great enjoyment. I can make myself young again. So, but the way to do that was he called for these two doctors from the heavenly planets, called the Ashvini Kumaras. And he said to them, look, make me young, and in this way, my wife will have a nice young husband. She deserves it. You know, why does she deserve this old bag of mine that I am right now, or that I have right now? So the Ashvini Kumar said, okay, as long as you give us this Amrit from the heavenly planets, Somaras from the heavenly planets, which they ordinarily didn't get. So the sage said, okay. So what happened is they all entered into this lake, like I think it was called the Lake of Everlasting Life or something like that. And they all came out like young and handsome, and the Ashvini Kumaras said to Shikanya, this is your husband, and he's young. And of course, this sage was able to protect the Ashvini Kumaras when Indra got angry because the sage was giving the Ashvini Kumaras the Samaras, but that's a different story. So what happens is now this sage is really young. He's changed his body, beautiful young girl. This young girl's father, King Saryati, comes back, and he sees his daughter. He sees his daughter with this young man, and he thinks that she has dumped her old husband. And he says to her, oh, this is so unchaste, so horrible. And she very proudly says, no, this is the sage, Chaivana, and he's made himself young to please me. So anyway, so there are some instances and stories in the Vedic literatures where people were able to regain their youth due to either mystic powers or due to some medicinal stuff like that, and I don't think any of us should try it. So, we are not the body. This is the first point being made here in this verse. We're changing the body throughout this lifetime, and at the time of death, we have another change of bodies. That's life. The body is continually changing. The cells are getting replaced. We're not in the same body like that. So that's the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna, oh yeah, here's another point. Krishna doesn't change his body. This will be described later on. There's many verses. Jopi Sanavyatmam Bhutanam Mithropisham. In the verses describe this. Krishna is Krishna. He is his body. His body is full of eternity. His body is composed, of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. And we also have a Satchidananda Vigraha body, but that's not the thing we're walking around with right now. We're identifying with something that's not composed of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. It's composed of, according to the Ayurveda, bio, mucus, and air, and other substances we cannot mention in the Bhagavad Gita discussion. So that's the body we have, but it's not our eternal body. Our eternal body is there, and by chanting, we can realize what our eternal body is and what relationship our eternal body, which is non-different from ourselves, has with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, first point, reincarnation. And of course, reincarnation is also directed by karma and desire. And we'll read about this later in Bhagavad Gita. Text 14. Matra sparsha stu konteya shitoshna shukadukata agama payano nitjas tamsta tikshasha bharata. Matra sparsha, sensory perception. 2 only, Konteya, son of Kunti. Shita, winter. Ushna, summer. Sukha, happiness. Dukkha, and pain. Da, giving. Agama, appearing. Apayanaha, disappearing. Anityaha, non-permanent. Tan, all of them. Titikshashva, just try to tolerate. Bharata, O descendant of the Bharata dynasty. So, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So let me read the purport. In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of Magh, January, February. It is very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principles does not hesitate to take his bath, of course. In most countries now, we have hot water, so it's not a problem. When I joined the Krishna consciousness movement, we would always take a cold shower in the morning. In fact, in most of the temples, we didn't have hot water. I remember visiting the New York temple, which was in Manhattan at that particular time, and they didn't have any heat in the building or heat in the water during the middle of the winter, and it was like having pins stuck in your body, but still we took a bath in the morning and we didn't get sick from that. Actually, earlier today, I went swimming in water that was under 50 degrees and it was cold. So similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the months of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season, because you got to eat. One has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of the Kshatriyas, and although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya, illusion. The 2 different names of addresses given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Konteya signifies his great blood relations from his mother's side, and to address him as Bharata signifies his greatness from his father's side. Because Arjuna is the son of Kunti Devi, and Bharata means he's a descendant in the dynasty in which King Bharata appeared. And India is named after King Bharata, Bhartavarsh. So, signifies his greatness from his father's side. From both sides, he is supposed to have a great heritage. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. So again, that indicates we have to be, or spiritualists should be, on the intelligence platform. The body may be experiencing this or that, but you don't have to necessarily go along with what the body is inclined to do, as long as you don't harm the body. That's the important point. We can push ourselves a little bit, but if it causes physical or mental harm, that's too much. That's called over-endeavor. And the word for that is prachas, chahara prayasas cha. So anyway, don't over-endeavor. Don't make yourself sick. Take care of the body. Body belongs to Krishna. We should take care of it very nicely, but we don't have to become the obedient servants of the body. Particularly, we don't have to be the obedient servants of the tongue. We should be servants of Krishna. So, and that means, again, to function on the intelligence platform and understand that the pleasures and the pains coming from the body are due to our attachment to the body. When you're attached to something, that thing can cause you pleasures or pains. For example, if I'm attached to the computer I'm using, if something happens to the computer, I will feel really bad. But if something happens to your computer, who cares? I don't care, at least. Because I don't have to pay for it. I don't have to fix it. It's fine with me. So the things that we actually are attached to, let's say if I have a car, I do have a car. If I'm sitting here and I hear a crash and I run outside and it's my car, I feel pain. And if I run outside and it's, let's say, the neighbor's car, of course, all the neighbors are devotees here, fortunately, then I'm not going to feel pain. So it's the attachment that causes the perception of pain or pleasure. Just like if you're in a video game, watching a movie. So a movie is not reality, nor is a video game. But you can actually experience all sorts of emotions while you're watching a movie. You can feel sadness, happiness, anxiety, anger, but it's all illusion. Same thing as the connection with this body. It's all illusion. We're actually feeling it, yes, but the idea that it's actually happening to us or it's real is an illusion. What's happening in the world is actually happening, but our attachment to it is what causes the pain, suffering, or even the enjoyment. Okay, next verse. This is a very interesting verse. Yam hina avyatayan chete purusham purusharshaba samaduka sukham dhiram somritat kalpate. Ayam, one to whom he certainly, never, vyatayanti are distressing, ete all these, purusham to a person, purusha rashabha, O best among men, sama unaltered, dukkha in distress, sukham and happiness, dhiram patient, saha he, amritatvaya for liberation, kalpate is considered eligible. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Okay, let me explain what that means. That means he tolerates these things. He may be experiencing happiness and distress of the body because of his connection with the body, but he is steady and does the right thing regardless of what is happening in the body or in the mind. And that person becomes liberated. Anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization, that means a goal, having a goal. I was asked the question today when we had this darshan with so many people, actually it was over 1,000 people in India talking to Goswami. How can we encourage young people to take up Krishna consciousness fully? And, that's an interesting question because there's so many divergences in this world. People, nowadays, people are lamenting. One of the big things that people are lamenting about right now, which is quite interesting, is that those who are graduating from high school in America can't attend the prom. For those of you who don't know what a prom is, I don't think I will explain. It's not important. It's some social event. So, they're getting so upset about this, they can't attend the prom. And, they're just losing their cool on that basis. So one actually has to function on the intelligence part. So we're talking about young people again. So young people, how to encourage them to take up spiritual life when they're just pulled this way and that way. Oh, what about the prom? What about this boyfriend, the girlfriend, my pet, my family, my God knows what else is pulling them. My social life. Or what about my hairdresser? Things like that. Pulling it here and there. I answered the question by simply stating that young people, whether you're young, whether you're old, whatever you are, you have to think of your purpose in life. What's your goal? You have to be goal oriented. What is your purpose in life? What do you want to leave this world with? What do you want to accomplish? What is your long-term goal? I'm not talking about short-term goals. Short-term maybe graduate from the university. Short-term maybe get an A in a particular course if you happen to be going to the university. But what is your goal in life? I mean, your purpose, your value. Same thing. So ask yourself that that question. And when you ask yourself that question, it will, if you're serious, it will make you more serious about life in general. Instead of just going here and there and getting trapped up with all these various diversions that are there. You know, let's go to Disneyland. For example, I just knew someone, I do know someone, who went to Disney World with his family, and he spent like $12,000 over a weekend, you know, a little longer than a weekend. And, you know, there's diversion. You can get diverted in so many ways. But it's important, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, as we'll read later on in this chapter, Ekeha Kurunandana, to be really focused. What do I want? Because people who are successful in this world, I mean, you read about these, you know, people who are rich, or people who are famous, or people who discovered things. I mean, for example, right now, they're trying to discover a vaccine for this virus. So those who are working in the laboratories, they're really focused because they're on, as they say, warp speed to try to discover a vaccine or come up with a vaccine or invent a vaccine. So you have to be really focused, like almost like 24 hours a day. And you find great scientists like Einstein coming up with his theory of relativity, you know, E equals mc squared. There's a lot more than that, of course. And doing all this mathematics. It's not that, you know, he just like one day, you know, woke up while he was swimming and discovered the theory of relativity. He actually spent a lot of time mathematically deriving it. It's a very complicated thing to do. So it requires focus. If you want to be successful, you got to be focused, even in the material world. What to speak of in spiritual life. Ekeha Kurunandana. That means those who are on this path are one-pointed or focused. Otherwise, you'll just be playing around with life. And the thing about playing around with life is you lose time and you cannot buy back 1 second, even with millions of dollars. A day lost, it is lost. With every rising and setting of the sun, a day is lost. You know, what did you do? What did you accomplish to achieve your goal today? So this is important materially as well as spiritually. Okay, so in the Varnashram institution, the fourth stage of life, namely the renounced order, sannyas, is a painstaking situation. But one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyas order of life in spite of all difficulties. Now, you know, Prabhupada actually mentions about his taking sannyas. It was painful for him because he was attached to doing his duty. But he took sannyas because he actually heard his spiritual master telling him to take sannyas in dreams and through his godbrother's instructions. The difficulties usually arise from having to sever family relationships to give up the connection of wife and children. Probably speaking like from personal realization here. But if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Similarly, in Arjuna's discharge of duties as Kshatriya, he is advised to persevere even if it is difficult to fight with his family members or similarly beloved persons. So many of us, when we took up Krishna consciousness, of course we didn't have to fight physically with our family members, but it was a little bit of a fight. Like my mother, she called up and said that she was dying and I was responsible for her death because I had taken up Krishna consciousness. And she wanted me to be a doctor. And it was painful for me because, you know, I do love my mother. And I just persevered. And now, 50 years later, she's still going strong. And she's pleased that I'm actually Krishna conscious. As I mentioned the other day, She even remembers my spiritual name more than she remembers my legal name, the name she gave me at birth. Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24, and his dependents, young wife as well as old mother, had no one else to look after them. Yet for a higher cause he took sannyas and was steady in the discharge of higher duties. That is the way of achieving liberation from material bondage. Let me unpack that. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he took sannyas, his wife and mother were situated in a village where basically there weren't any family members to take care of them, but there were associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like Advaita Acharya and others who cared for Lord Chaitanya's mother Sachi and Vishnupriya, his wife, very, very nicely. I mean, they were worshipped. They were actually very worshipped. They were worshipped very well. So it's not that they were neglected. And actually, that's the system. When one takes sannyas, one has to make sure that everything is taken care of properly. I mean, it's not an irresponsible thing. Like Prabhupada, even while he was guiding the movement, made some arrangements for the welfare of his family. In fact, even when he left this world, he left a stipend for his family. So it's not something that's, just heartless or whatever, except that one is focused on one's duty. And so that's what sannyas is. Of course, in Kali Yuga, I think I have to explain this. In Kali Yuga, the preferable type of sannyas is that one remains with one's family and serves the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in previous ages, the sannyas would go to the forest, he would wear deer skin, he would live on a different tree every night, and that is not prescribed in this day and age. In this day and age, one remains stani stita shrutigatam tanban manobir with his family and serves Krishna. So there's no need for this absolute type of renunciation, just renunciation of material activities. So in other words, it's not that when one retires from active work, making money, economic development, that one just goes and plays golf for the rest of his life. Just goes off into the sunset on the golf cart playing golf, or takes up political life. One devotes his whole life and his family's life, his wife, children, grandchildren, whatever, to the pursuit of Krishna consciousness. So that's the preferable stage of renunciation for everyone. So, next verse, another very important verse. Nasato vijate bhavo, na bhavo vijate sataha, ubayorapi drishto antas, tvanios tattva darshabhihi. Na never asataha, of the non-existent vijate there is, bhava, endurance, na never, abhavaha, changing quality, vijate, there is, sataha, of the eternal, ubayoho, of the two, api, verily, drishta, observed, anta, conclusion, two, indeed, ana, yoho, of them, tatva, of the truth, darshabhihi, of the seers. Translation, those who are seers of the truth, that means people who see the truth and realize the truth, have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there's no endurance. And of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Okay, let me unpack that. So when we talk about non-existent, we are talking about permanent existence. So something that doesn't have permanent existence is not considered as important as something that has permanent existence, like the soul. For example, and this is an example I often give, a soap bubble has very temporary existence. Just a few seconds, maybe half a minute if you're lucky. But that's it. It's there. It's not non-existing or non-existent in an absolute sense, but it's considered non-existent because it's so temporary. Here today, gone tomorrow. So this is what this verse is talking about. So those who are seers, are interested in the truth, don't put so much attention on things that have a beginning and an end. And the things that continue to exist, that's what they put their attention on. But they use the temporary things in the service of the eternal. And they don't take the temporary things as seriously. Things are very, very temporary in this world. As a pre-Socratic philosopher once said, you can't step into the same river twice. This whole material energy is mutable. It's always changing. The body's changing. Things are always changing. Life is changing. So we do not place as much significance, although we're aware of it, we use it in Krishna's service, as we do on things that continue to exist. Our eternal spiritual nature, our relationship with our spiritual master, that's eternal. Our relationship with Krishna, that's eternal. So those are the important things, and other things are used in that service. So purport, there's no endurance of the changing body, obviously. That the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells is admitted by modern medical science, and thus growth and old age are taking place in the body. But the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and mind. That is the difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. This conclusion is established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalists and personalists. That is a no-brainer. The body is changing. Hare Krishna. It's not. Prabhupada would often, in his discussions with people of different faiths, that means people who propounded a particular religion, they would say, we don't believe what you're teaching. And Prabhupada said, we're not teaching a religion or sectarian religion. We're not teaching a particular faith. This is science. Do you think that because you are Christian or you are Jew, that your body's not changing, that you're not going to get old? Whether you're Christian, Jew, Hindu, Muslim, or whatever, then you're still going to reincarnate. There's no such thing as a Jewish soul, a Hindu soul, a Muslim soul, or whatever. A soul is a soul is a soul. And so these are facts. You're getting old. You disagree with that? You don't have faith that you're getting old? Go see a psychiatrist, please. So Prabhupada would speak like that sometimes. In the Vishnu Purana 2:12-38, it is stated that Vishnu and his abodes, that means where he lives, all have self-illuminated spiritual existence. Jyotimshi Vishnu Bhuvanani Vishnu. The word existent and non-existent refer only to spirit and matter. That is the version of all seers of truth. This is the beginning of the instruction by the Lord to the living entities who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance involves the reestablishment of the eternal relationship between the worshipper and worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities, that's us, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by thorough study of oneself, the difference between oneself and the Supreme being understood as the relationship between the part and the whole. Another example Srila Prabhupada gave is that you can understand the constitution of a particular body of water, like the ocean, by taking one drop. Let's say if the ocean was actually the same everywhere, the same constitution. This is a theoretical analogy, a metaphor. But, a big body of water, you just need to take one sample. And so we are the sample, and Krishna is the supreme whole. So we have certain feelings, we desire loving relationships, we want to have fun. Krishna has feelings, Krishna has fun, not only wants to have fun. Krishna has full knowledge, we have a tiny amount of knowledge. So you can understand a little bit about God by looking at us, seeing our interactions, our types of relationships. We were talking the other day about parental relationship, conjugal relationship, friendship relationship, servitude relationship. So these exist in the spiritual realm. And the reason those things exist here is because they exist in God. Everything comes from God. It wouldn't exist here unless it came from God. He's the cause of all causes, and nothing causes him. In the Vedanta Sutras, as well as the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme has been accepted as the origin of all emanations. And the verse is Janma Dyasha Yataha. Such emanations, are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. The living entities belong to the superior nature, as it will be revealed in the 7th chapter. Although there's no difference between the energy and the energetic. In other words, Krishna is the energetic, that which possesses or emanates the energy, and we are the energy of Krishna. The energetic is accepted as the supreme, and the energy or nature, that's another energy of Krishna, is nature. We're one of the energies of Krishna. Vishnu, Shakti, Para, Prokta, Kshetrakyaka, Tata, Para, Vidyakarma, Sanganyat, Tritiya, Shakti, Ishate. There's 3 basic categories. One is the spiritual energy. Another one is the material energy, which is like called ignorance and action, ignorant action. And then the third one is the marginal energy, which we are representatives of the marginal energy. Marginal means we can choose to go one way or the other. We're right on the border. Just like when you look at the seashore, what demarks the difference between the ocean and the land is like the marginal area. In other words, you're either on one side or the other side, even though the margin really has no dimensions, because you're either covered by water or not covered by water. But it goes both ways. In other words, on the seashore, depending on the tide, a particular part of the shore will be covered with water, and depending on the tide, that part may be uncovered again. So, of course, we're not simply, let's say, at the mercy of the tides. We can actually choose to be covered or not covered. If we choose to not be covered, then we take up the process of bhakti. If we choose to be covered, then we take up the process of karma and vikarma. That's up to us. Free will. Nobody can change that. The living entities, therefore, are always subordinate to the Supreme Lord, as the case of the master and the servant, the teacher and the taught. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spells of ignorance, and to drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad Gita for the enlightenment of all living entities for all time. In other words, for many people, even though this is such a simple point, the concepts are extremely simple. It's just like, can't understand it. And actually, one of the reasons people can understand it is because they are so covered. And one of the reasons people become covered by this ignorance, or the mode of ignorance, is because they are eating animals. In the Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, it describes this, that people will appreciate Krishna consciousness, Nivrittatar Sharupagim on us. There's a wonderful verse, 10.1.4. And it says that the transcendental sound vibration, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, the transcendental philosophy of Krishna consciousness is extremely relishable and relished by everybody. And the only people who don't relish it, pashugnat, are those who are basically killers of animals. So you may say, I don't kill animals. I just go to the supermarket. But actually, you are killing the animals. Whether you go to the supermarket or you kill directly, what is the difference? And under the law, for example, if I pay someone to kill someone else, I'm guilty of murder. Whether I kill the person directly or I pay someone, or I'm part of the conspiracy to kill someone. So that one becomes so much, let's see, immersed in the mode of ignorance just by the fact that they're eating meat. It is such a heavy, karmic, ignorant activity that one activity will actually cover one from understanding spiritual life. In fact, it's impossible. to understand spiritual life. As long as one can speculate, one can try to guess the nature of God and spiritual life, but as long as one is eating flesh, a realization will not come. Unfortunately, will not come. Okay, one more verse. Text 17. Avinashi tu tad vidiyena sarvamidam tatam vinasham avyasya nakaschit kartam arhati. Avinashi, imperishable, tu, but, tat, that. Vidi, know it. Yena, by whom? Sarvam, all of adidam, this, tatam, pervaded. Vinasham, destruction. Avyasya, of the imperishable asya of it. Na, kaschit, no one. Kartum, to do. Arhati is able. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. That's us. We are completely indestructible. We have eternal life. Pretty nice. But we're forgetting about that right now because we're in illusion. This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body in part or as whole. This spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. The pains and pleasures of one body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptom of the soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. This soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size. This Shvetashvatara Upanishad 5.9 confirms this. Balagra Shata Bhagasya Shata Da Kapitasya Cha Bhagojiva Savigyeha Sachanantyaya Kalpate. When the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and again, each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts, each such part is the measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. Similarly, the same version is stated, is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 19:140, Keshagra Shatavagasha Shatamsha Sadrishatmakaha Jiva Sukshma Surupo Yam Sankhya Tito Hi Chit Kanaha. There are innumerable particles of spiritual atoms which are measured as 1/10,000th of the upper portion of the hair. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. This very small spiritual spark is the basic principle of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. The current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness, and that is the proof of the presence of the soul. Consciousness. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. I'm conscious, therefore I am. Any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination. Of course, the scientists now say consciousness is what they say is an epiphenomena of matter. But that's simply their speculation. They've never been able to produce consciousness in a computer or through biological means. But to the spirit soul. In the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.9, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is further explained. Esho nuratma chetasa veditavyo yasmin prana panchada samvivesha pranashchitam sarvam otam pujanam yasmin vishude vivavatyesha atma. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air. This is, of course, understanding by Ayurveda. Prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana, and is situated within the heart and spreads its influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. The Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling the 5 kinds of air, encircling the pure spirit soul by different kinds of sitting postures, not for any material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of material atmosphere. That's the Hatha Yoga. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures, and it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all-pervading Vishnu Tattva. In other words, we are not God. You know, sometimes, at least in the 1960s, you'd have all sorts of people declaring themselves to be God, and even like hippies on the street declaring themselves to be God. I am God. You know, it became something very cheap, but God is all-pervading, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good, all the all stuff. The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. According to the Mundaka Upanishad, the atomic soul is situated in the heart of every living being, and because the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of the material scientists, some of them assert foolishly there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart, along with the super soul, and thus all the energies of the bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body. The corpuscles, which carry the oxygen from the lungs, gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood generating fusion ceases. Medical science accepts the importance of the red corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the heart is the seat of all energies of the body. Such atomic particles of the spirit soul compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine, there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord, called by the name Prabha, or superior energy. So whether one follows Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of the spirit soul in the body. And the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita by the personality of Godhead himself. In other words, we're the spirit soul. Spirit soul is tiny, doesn't have any material dimensions, and pervades the entire body by consciousness. And when we die, the spirit soul leaves. I mean, just basic philosophy that's very easy to understand. Okay, so now we can take a few questions. So does anybody have any questions?
Hare Krishna Gurudev.
Lady Kant. Oh, I haven't seen you for a long time.
Krishna.
Where's your camera?
Uh, uh, Hare
I want
Krishna
to,
Gurudev.
I
I'm in
want
the
to see your transcendental body. Oh,
Apologies,
okay.
Gurudev, because I'm at workplace, so sometimes I'm listening, sometimes I'm not, and not paying attention. Um, Sorry for
So what?
that. Gurudev, you mentioned about like consciousness can be covered because many people they hear about Krishna consciousness, but they are not convinced because they are eating meat.
Well, they can't understand it. I said they can't understand it, right?
Okay. So is it same sort of, I mean, I feel like following the regulative principles and doing prescribed rounds, but still feel like a lot of laziness and unable to like wake up early morning or take cold shower and things like that. Is it because we still buying milk from the supermarket, which
I think it's because you're going to sleep too late at night. Sometimes you're watching my classes when it's like 11 or 11:30 at night. So basically, go to sleep early and wake up early.
okay. But
I'm
is
not gonna,
there
I'm not going to touch upon that
okay?
touchy subject about buying milk from the supermarket, although we here in North Carolina are not buying slaughterhouse milk.
Okay, Gurudev.
So I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. So anyway, I mean, you need to get enough rest at night. If you're feeling you're so tired, then you better sleep more. I mean, it's just practical.
Yeah,
Or maybe eat less. I mean, there's different things you can do. I
do okay.
wouldn't I wouldn't try to turn every single material situation into a spiritual deficit. Now you have to be careful. Sometimes there are certain material solutions to things.
Yes.
You know, if I'm feeling cold, I don't chant Hare Krishna. If
Yes.
I'm feeling cold, I put a coat on.
Yes.
You know, just like for example, today I went swimming and the water was under, well, let's see, centigrade. It was probably about 6 degrees centigrade, which is really cold.
Yes.
And I didn't just chant Hare Krishna, I jumped out of the water.
Okay.
So that, you know, sometimes things do require a material solution.
Yes.
So I have disciples who want to freeze their guru, you know, preserve his body, you know, anyway. So, anyway, that's just a joke. So, yeah, so there are material solutions, and don't simply look for spiritual reason for everything.
Okay, Gurudev. Thank you,
I mean,
Gurudev.
this, yeah, I mean, you're dealing with the coronavirus, so you don't just chant Hare Krishna to the virus.
No,
You still got
Gurudev.
to wear a mask. You still got to
Mm,
take some material solutions.
yes.
Tomorrow we're going to be having this interview with a doctor about the coronavirus, practical material things that you can do to avoid, practical material things you can do to get cured very quickly,
Yes.
practical material things. It's going to be basically material subject matter. And it's
Okay.
going to be useful because we use material things in Krishna's service.
Is it a Ayurvedic doctor? Is he a Ayurvedic?
No, not Ayurvedic. He is a Western doctor.
Okay, Gurudev.
He is a Western doctor who is actually studying different controlled studies. I don't know if any of you have heard about controlled studies before.
Yes, heard
Uh,
about.
Controlled studies means he looks at different publications by the National Institute of Health and other different organizations, and he takes their conclusions.
Okay,
You know,
Gurudev.
there are many, many, many studies. It's not just simply his opinion or he read or someone told him about it.
Yes.
He's quite expert in different things like cancer research and also in other things. Anyway, very nice doctor. You'll see tomorrow. That'll be. Oh no, you won't see because you'll be sleeping. I hope that will that will be at 11 o'clock East Coast time in America, which is way past your bedtime. Because 11 o'clock East Coast time is 3 o'clock in the morning your time. Hopefully you don't stay up that late.
Okay, okay,
All right.
Gurudev. Thank
You'd,
you,
you'd
Gurudev.
be you'd be a terrible doctor if you were sleeping all the time on the job.
No.
You wouldn't you wouldn't be able to recognize where the kidney is and where the heart is.
Once I'm up, I feel okay. It's just getting up.
Well, also, you know, as a doctor, you really have to be on the top of your game.
Okay.
So it's very important to be very alert when you're a doctor, you know, because mistakes can be deadly.
Yes.
We actually another question we had today in this conversation with Gormani. One of the people asked the question, "Why don't we take garlic, for example?" And one of the answers I gave, apart from the fact that garlic puts one in the mode of ignorance, is that airplane pilots in some airlines are not permitted to eat a garlic meal for a few hours before a flight because their reflexes get diminished when they eat garlic. And who wants to fly in a plane where the pilot can't figure out where the rudder is or the or any of the other things, you know, in the plane, you know, what is that dial?
Yes.
So better not to eat garlic before you operate on a patient, Lady Kanto, all right?
Okay, Gurudev.
Okay, thank you.
Hare
So
Krishna, Gurudev. Thank you.
that's funny.
Guru
I
Maharaj,
can, yes. What?
Gurudev.
Yeah, I can see you.
So
Ganesh, go ahead.
my question is like a successful person is extremely focused,
Yes.
but I see a lot of distraction in the work, in the spiritual life. Then how to be extremely focused in regular life?
Have your mission statement printed in big letters in your room. Whatever your mission or goal, and if that doesn't work, you tattoo it to your arm. Not really, but just focus on it before you take rest at night. You know, what is my goal before you change your job in the morning? And then throughout the day, you'll be more focused. I mean, businessmen have to be focused in order to be successful. I usually give the example of my father, who was very successful in business, and he was so focused, he would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning before most devotees wake up, and he'd come back at 10 o'clock at night every night, and he made a fortune in business. But he was one-pointed, you know, really one-pointed in business. So, I mean, there were so many diversions, of course, but he just was focused on what he had to do. So that's how we should be in spiritual life. Of course, perhaps not that fanatic. You need a time for recreation. He didn't really take that much time for recreation. Even when he was doing recreation, he was focused on his business. So at a certain time, we have to recreate, you know, just go swimming or something like that. So, okay?
Yes, Gurudev.
Okay, and one more question.
Dhanwad Maharaj,
Oh, that'll be wrong again. So, good to see you.
please accept my, nice to meet you, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai,
Uh,
always Prabhupada.
Maharaj, I just want to get some clarification in regards of the mode of ignorance. What is the major cause, or what is the specific
Uh-oh.
mode
Your internet connection is
or
going down.
what is the
What is
first
what?
step?
Uh-oh. Ask your question again.
Uh, I think, yeah. I want to ask you what major cause of the mode of ignorance when a person very first step into the mode of ignorance. Is it only meat eating or any other thing?
Well, it can be
And
anything like
uh,
intoxication, you know, the regulated principles: intoxication, meat eating, gambling, association, music in the mode of ignorance, activities in the mode of ignorance, getting angry. I mean, all sorts of things that can cause us to slip into the mode of ignorance. But the meat eating itself is not only ignorant, it is such a heavy karma from harming other living entities for one's own satisfaction. And that's a little bit different. I mean, let's say someone drinks liquor. Okay, I do not drink liquor, never have drunk liquor. I want to make that clear. But if someone drinks liquor and he gets intoxicated, that's him. And usually, hopefully, he's not killing anybody. But it's in the mode of ignorance, and it's karmic, but it's not as heavy a karma or karmic reaction as killing another living entity for one's own satisfaction. It's killing another living entity, causing pain to someone else for one's own happiness and unnecessary happiness, just to titillate your senses and actually give you so many diseases, is a very heavy karmic thing. It shows a lack of compassion, a lack of empathy, a lack of humanity. You might as well be an animal. So that's the answer to that. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much,
So
Maharaj. Thanks.
I'm sure you're vegetarian. So I
Sure.
think we have to. Oh, I think we have to end now. And we want to thank everybody for joining us at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning East Coast time. We have this interview with the doctor, 6 o'clock in the evening East Coast time, U.S. We have our continuation of the Gita tomorrow. Tomorrow, of course, here in the U.S. it's Saturday. And then Sunday, which is Monday, in the South Pacific, the Bhagavad Gita class will be at 5 o'clock. and that means in the South Pacific it would be an hour earlier than you're accustomed to having the Bhagavad Gita class on Monday. Okay, on a Monday morning, because here, when it's 6 o'clock in the evening when I start the Bhagavad Gita class, normally it is 10 o'clock in the morning in New Zealand, and it is 8 o'clock in the morning in Australia. And India is 9 hours later, right, Praneshwara? 9.5, sorry. 9.5 hours later
Yes,
than the East Coast of the United States. So that's 6 o'clock. So it's 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning.
Yes.
Classes until 4:30 in the morning. So that's all right. You don't have to be at Mangalarti because you're locked up. Okay, but at least you're here at class. Okay, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. And everything we do tomorrow will be recorded and on Facebook and on YouTube too. So if you can't make it for the doctor's discussion, watch it later on. And please watch the discussion I had with Gauramani, which was earlier today, and that's on Facebook and YouTube. Okay, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Bye-bye.